We're going to go ahead and get started. It is 11 o'clock, so we've got a few people on here, so we'll go ahead and get started, and we'll grab the others as they come in. So I want to welcome everyone to this week's Purdue at Westgate webinar series. My name is Samantha Nelson, and I'm the program manager for the Purdue Foundry at Westgate, which is located within the Westgate Academy. We at Purdue at Westgate strive to promote business and talent growth, and we want to help support you as a startup, small business, or academia. We strive to be that regional hub of connection and support. Purdue at Westgate is located within the Westgate Academy, and the Westgate Academy is located within the Westgate at Crane Technology Park, which is directly outside of the Crane Naval Support Activity Center in Crane, Indiana. We would like to thank our sponsor for this webinar, CACI International. CACI International Incorporated is an American international professional services and informational technology company that is headquartered in Arlington, Virginia. They provide services to many branches of the U.S. federal government, including defense, homeland security, intelligence, and healthcare. We're excited to have a satellite office of CACI within the Westgate at Crane Technology Park supporting the NSWC Crane. Today, we are excited to be hosting a webinar with Todd Myer. Todd is a certified business performance advisor for Insperity. Insperity provides an array of human resources and business solutions designed to help improve business performance. Todd has over 20 years of experience working with companies to help them achieve their highest potential of the people within their organization. We ask that you mute your microphones, and if comfortable, you may leave your videos on during the presentation. Please feel free to use the chat function at the bottom of your screen at any point to ask any questions during the presentation. Todd will answer these either during the presentation as he sees fit or after the presentation. Following the webinar, a copy of the presentation and the recording will be sent to you via email. So without further ado, I would like to introduce to you Todd Myer.
Thanks, Samantha. Appreciate it. Thanks for having us. Looking forward to the delayed conversation, so to speak. But if you do, this is very interactive. If something does pop up, feel free to reach, send it to chat. And I have my colleague, Jesse Jett, that's on this as well. He's going to be monitoring some of those. So if there's pertinent questions that come up because of a slide, again, I want to address those. But again, appreciate being here. As Samantha said, I'm part of a business performance advisor with Insperity. Insperity, and I'll talk on, is headquartered out of Houston. I'm located outside of Washington, D.C. My colleague Jesse is in our Indianapolis office. So appreciate it, and thanks for having us. Let me briefly share my screen here. So as I mentioned, we're talking about, organizations and looking at yours, and we do have somewhat centered on a government contracting, but please keep in mind, I understand that there are some other organizations that'll probably join us in this call. So even though we're pointing at some of these with government contractor basis, this is impactful, our model to organizations in the startup community. So just briefly going through, kind of giving you the high end of Insperity, and again, founded in 1986. And actually, the interesting thing is that Insperity was founded in 1986, but actually founded this industry of a professional employer organization based in Houston, as you can see, 80 locations. And the reason that we put this slide out there is not to scare anyone off. And a lot of times we get that it's like your startup organization and you have the culture and the things that you build up and grow. The reason that, and you're going to see this model, is what we do. We actually help businesses succeed so communities prosper. And that is our tagline. And so that is what Insperity was founded by our CEO, Paul Sarvati, and he was an entrepreneur, small businessman, no longer is, but failed multiple times, and he failed on infrastructure and things getting in the way. So the reason I talk about that is a credibility piece, because the PEO model is not a fit for everybody. but it's a leap of faith for an organization that wants to get things out of the way. And you'll see $4.3 billion, 3,500 corporate employees, the 9,600 client companies and 240,000 employees is an impact to be nimble, to allow them to create the culture that they've driven and then move that throughout. But it also allows you to create an efficiency model, because that's what we do. We do it in Insperity. Oops, sorry, so what we do. So part of this as a actual one of a few certified professional employer organization is really to allow companies such as yourself that are in the startup mode and even existing companies. So it's not just for those startup companies. We deal with all facets. So anywhere from 3 to 4 worksite employee companies that are growing, moving all up to our largest client is about 3,500 worksite employees. When I talk about leveraging power and containing costs, that's the methodology around what we do. So 9,600 worksite clients across all 50 states, we pool those together. So what it allows us to do is to partner up with organizations to provide instant infrastructure, provide a payroll structure, move those employer related headaches that some of you may be in, some of you maybe not. When you hire that first and second and third employee, you start dealing with employee relations versus what you're dealing with managing your business. So from that aspect of it, we look at things from being an employer of record again, and allowing to create the efficiencies, remove the risk and liabilities of being an employer. And specifically, as I stated, now keep in mind, I know depending on, we're looking at this like with the khakis of the world and some of you out there that may not be in the government contractor world. It really, this can pertain, and you can kind of facet that into your normal commercial businesses. But what it allows you to do specifically in the government contracting world, of where we can be very, very impactful, is a forward thinking. So helping organizations really reduce their overall fringe and wrap rate, so that we can allow them to come in, allow them to bid, allow them to come in and manage the employee. It's really helping organizations in all 50 states in the infrastructure, and especially as we've found out over this year, right? Businesses are really reinventing themselves, and businesses are looking at things differently and moving through this COVID protocol, and then saying, okay, what does it look like going in forward? I can do business differently than I have. The brick and mortar is an area. Multi-states that used to be kind of a regulation or a very complex initiative, because you have to have tax structure, you benefits and all in as a national plan. That's gone away. And Insperity allows you to then go out there and provide these infrastructures in the mechanisms to go and attract employees into your organization, manage them, train them up to provide you a high level Fortune 500 type of infrastructure, but then always allowing you to be very culturally based and driving your organization forward, so that you can then go after whether you're doing a government contracting structure or any kind of commercial business. Wage and salary data reports to manage RFPs. And again, coming back to this, you can really manage this from a commercial business, and then more importantly from a government contracting standpoint. So it really levels that playing field. And the methodology again is called a professional employer organization. So from that standpoint, it really allows organizations then to go out, and the Insperity partnership, and you're going to hear kind of using that term a lot, but the partnership truly is. It's a partnership to help you do these type of things. And so it's that full life cycle of managing employees. And I pause here, there's a lot of words, but ramping up, onboarding your personnel, going out there from a technology platform, because, and I'll touch on a couple of slides, from the Insperity standpoint, it's allowing you to compete, allowing you to partner up. And it's really interesting that you have khaki. And if you guys aren't familiar with that organization, it's an organization that is a multinational, just multi-billion-dollar company. Now, we at Insperity, we don't have clients of that size, but we do have clients that are subcontractors, and a lot of them are primes to khaki. So what we're able them to do is really come in and manage this piece of it. So you really would look at this as a business. It's national healthcare. It's a 401k platform, but it truly allows you to then come in and actually, when you're looking like at a khaki, when they come to small existing businesses, and there was a misnomer that I learned during this, is that, oh, khaki's always going to be a prime specifically on a contract. But that's not the case, because of all the different regulations out there, service disabled, veteran owned business, the different accreditations of 8A, those kind of things. A lot of times now you're finding these large organizations such as khaki that partner with smaller startups. And that's why this is very beneficial, because looking at that, they're looking and almost taking a leap of faith doing business with a small startup. Again, we provide that infrastructure, excuse me. We provide that tax mitigation, but more importantly, we manage risk of being an employer. So even a direct prime to the federal government or in a commercial business that you're going after a large contract and you're a startup, it's all around past performance. And our model allows you to minimize that past performance because Insperity's model actually takes on that fiduciary and liability around taxes, workers' comp, health and welfare, and then managing all the compliance and the different nuances inside of being an employer. So, and I'm going to pause here just a little bit. So before I start talking, but this is the true methodology. And when you look at this and look at this, take a look from a traditional employment versus other kind of of PEOs, and then you have Insperity and then the staffing. And I'm going to pause and kind of let you guys just take a quick look at that from the standpoint of your business and what it looks like going forward. Understand an Insperity or even as a PEO, because there are other PEOs out there. Now keep in mind there are different nuances and inside of a PEO, and I'm going to touch on that because there is a benefit to what we do and how we differentiate ourselves, much like I'm sure you guys do when you go to business. You have different skill sets that you market yourself on. Traditional employment, and you can see it's all about managing and where the liability and the risk. You have HR, taxes. These are different vendors. And this is where most businesses, like we said, are today. The ones that are, even if you're starting, when you hire those employees, when you move down that pendulum into other PEOs, it really is about how much risk do you want to manage and keep in your business, or how much risk do you want to turn over to a potential other PEO? And then you move upstream to what our model is because of our differentiation, how we go to market. And when we talk about going to market as a workforce optimization, that's our solution. You truly do this and a true partnership. We don't carve a lot of things out. Again, payroll, workers' comp, the benefits. There's a national platform, and the differentiator in our model is that we remove cost in there, and we actually remove brokers. So we are a direct allocation purchaser of plans, but inside of our model, you guys and our partners decide what different plan designs: medical, dental, vision, life insurance, disability, long-term, short-term, both into that, life insurance. And then our partners actually look at this and say, okay, where's my company at today? And then what do I want to offer? It's not, Insperity does not dictate what different level of benefits. You know who you're competing against. You know what you have to have in place to attract individuals inside of your company. We just manage that. So we say, okay, United Healthcare is our primary partner in all 50 states. So we say, okay, look at this. What is the level that you want to take on? And that's where you develop this relationship. So those are the triggering events, and Insperity just manages that. And then inside of that, you'll see down below, HR is shared because that's direction and control. You don't want us involved in that aspect of it. So we provide a shared liability on what you're doing from a day-to-day inside of your business. So we're not hiring and firing. We're not directing and controlling. That remains with our partners. We just provide them a 300 to 400 product solution that's all included. It's all included inside of our model and delivered from a dedicated team and a dedicated technology platform that goes with this partnership. So we become very, very strategic and removing that risk and the transactional piece. And I always like to touch, because there's always this misnomer that, oh, if you go to do business with a PEO or do business with Insperity, then you're taking the employee, that red line through it. That is not what we do. Again, we don't direct, we don't control. They are your employees. It's just a shared employment so that we can allow you to move forward faster than what you can do on your own, specifically taking your business down a road, taking your business and moving it forward, removing the roadblocks. And it was a analogy that one of my clients said to me, is that he looks at Insperity as the curbs in the road, because he had a former company that he grew very, very large, and he had a big staff of HR. But every time he would go to talk to them about doing something different in his business, they always said, you can't do that because of this. You can't do that because of compliance. And he said, Insperity removes those roadblocks, but becomes the curbs. They're not involved every day in my business, but if I do look at something and I'm going to be out of compliance, that's the curb, and it just bumps me back into it. I'm driving my business. I'm going down the road. I determine if I want to go left, right, or straight. And Insperity's partnership of removing vendors that tend to get in the way moving forward. This is truly how it's driven. The Inspirity PEO model is a shared model, and you can see here that you have the PEO driven over there in the blue and your company in the green. It's a direct relationship to provide these kind of responsibilities. So you can see from the reiteration that we drive the strategic piece of it. You and our partners manage your business, grow your business, manage change. So all of that is delivered by you so that you have more control inside of your business, and then you can remain focused on what you're doing from an entrepreneurial view. What we don't do is, again, get involved with that. And individuals in our prospecting will say, okay, so what happens when I do business with a company like Insperity or a PEO or that type of model? And if we decide after year one, it just doesn't work for us, or afterward, the only thing that goes away, again, are the responsibilities within actually transition out. But again, it's the directive around direction and control, and that's delivered through the model. Again, this is a nice picture that kind of shows you what we do and where we get involved with. Again, we are always there, being very proactive to changes around EEOC compliance, those type of things. But then we become very reactive and very strategic when our client companies bring us in and to initiate strategic initiatives in the company to help them manage their business a little more efficiently. Again, you're there to establish an HR strategy. You know, a lot of companies are attracting top talent. So these are the things that really, through our platform called Inspirity Premier, and then our service deliverable, which is another differentiator, not only how we went to market, where I talked about from a workers' comp or a product around our benefits, but how we actually deliver this partnership that where these are dedicated business. And again, the scalability from an organization to how do you take your company from 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 and scale it up to 3,500 worksite employees. And that's the scalability of our model, and to integrate into that and to manage the resources and provide those things and dedicate that staff towards you to help you deliver your model quicker than what you can do on your own. The Insperity Business Solution. So this is the true fundamental foundation of Insperity. So the co-employment model, albeit might be a little bit, I use the word scary, probably not the best word because none of you, I'm sure, are scared of the model, but apprehensive might be a better way. But you look at this from a holistic approach. Co-employment wraps itself around what you're trying to do and allowing you to create these business plans and allowing you to look at really these different differentiators in the model. And you can see these kind of these 7 different areas of HR related compliance, the recruiting. These are the kind of the foundational approaches of when you have a business. How are you going to do this? How are you going to train, develop? How are you going to manage your employees once you attract them in to recruit? And this is kind of that workflow, and co-employment allows you to kind of wrap that around to protect you. And again, delivering this through an HR service team and the technology, which we've co-branded Inspirity's Premier. And the Insperity Premier system is a full-blown HRIS system that's integrated fully into, again, attraction, paperless onboarding, has AIs built into this. Your employees can manage instantly on their either mobile devices. They can manage it internally from the Premier to that specifically manage them. As the executives start to manage, you can work with your team from a reporting mechanism, from that aspect specifically around standing up your company and making sure that compliance is in place. And using example, for instance, that's kind of in front of everybody from a COVID standpoint. And this is something that came up. So individuals will ask us, okay, what do you mean by reactive? How do you guys look at things and change to support your partners? And COVID's a real good example, is that when we had individuals going out and applying for the PPP loans, we actually were ahead of the game. We started working with this And actually, our clients had a higher rate of acceptance, not because of the ability of, from the reporting mechanism. It's they got in line to the bank before anyone else. And what I mean was, when the money ran out, it wasn't because Insperity did something with their financial advisors to get them approval. What we did is, on the back end, all of that mechanism, that if any one of you actually applied for those loans, you knew that you had to go back to your multiple vendors. You had to grab your payroll. You had to go out to your workers' comp vendor. You had to go out to your benefit vendor. You had to go out to all these things to wrap that around for their application. And then it took you time to get that done. And then by the time when you went to your bank, they said, well, we don't have any more money. So, but what we did is we actually managed that. So we actually had it, and we're building it on the back end. So all of our client company partners, we said, look, just go get in line, jump in line at your financial institution. By the time you get there, we're going to have this done. And that's what we did. We literally then, they went on our Premier site, pushed a button, downloaded all the appropriate data, provided it to their financial institution, and got approval. And I think the industry average of ones that applied to getting approval was around 12%. The average Insperity client that applied for a loan, it was 21%. And then from there, we developed then from the forgiveness. So we said, fine, you got your money, now put it in the bank. We are now developing a platform that you can go in through Premier, click every month, and then you get the reporting mechanisms. You reply it back to the government for the application to get forgiveness if that's what you wanted. So that's that reactive piece that we continue going. DE&I and the inclusion, we're managing all of that aspect so that our clients don't have to worry about it. They focus strictly and on their business, while we're in the back end reacting to different things that change, from compliance to regulations, those kind of things. So this is the essence of how our model looks. This next slide, it's going to be a lot, and I don't expect anything, but it takes these different key indicators of managing your business, and the all-inclusive approach is very, very important, because as you can see, these touch points are, again, all-inclusive. We're not fee-based from a project. We're really a cost on every employee. And what that means is it's a fixed fluid cost. So when you grow your company and you add an employee, you're going to understand your true cost of being an employer based on every employee, whether they select benefits or not. But from that aspect of it, it's a great tool to help you manage business and manage growth, especially from a startup organization. So this just drives 300 to 400 different solutions. This is driving it down, and it's just a capture and a snapshot of that. And we're constantly adding to these things from an organizational standpoint to try to react to how businesses move and ebbs and flows, just like my example of managing the PPP loan. That was something obviously that no one knew about, and we were able to then get ahead of that to help our client companies react to that quicker than what they were able to do on their own. And again, so Samantha mentioned you guys are going to get a copy of this so you can drive down this and kind of get an idea of what this means. And then again, overall aspects of it. And then again, any from a cultural base, like I said, from a standpoint of how we actually support, this flows into that. This is the team approach that we give. And I mentioned earlier regarding the differentiators in Insperity and how we go to market with products, like I said, the benefits. But this is another key differentiator because technology platform that is driven by our performance team, so our workforce optimization team. Now, again, I'm not saying that our model is the fit for everybody, which it's not, but understanding that the key indicators of understanding culture, understanding things going on inside of a company, these are dedicated to you. And everything that I've talked through up to this point, we are all Insperity related. We don't outsource our technology. We don't outsource our staff. So they are dedicated employees from Insperity that actually learn. So you get this model, and they can become your key point of contact in any organization, from the client liaison, HR specialist that provides you with SHRM related, and they work together. And the nice thing about this is that, being that we have 80 plus offices and are growing every year, we can provide key indicators inside of our organization. So when a specific business is doing something in a state, a support team and say, hey, this is what we're seeing in this industry. Do you have any kind of key points of what you've dealt with? And so they're actually sharing resources back and forth in all 50 states, again, to try to be more reactive and get ahead of the game from what's going to happen in business. Now, again, we can't know everything, obviously, but it just shows you in that true partnership. And I want to on the partnership piece, because when you talk about Insperity and you talk about a PEO, and especially what we do, we have skin in the game. And you probably heard, and I don't know if there's any questions that have come up, that what does that mean as skin in the game, or what does it mean to be a partner versus a vendor? When you rely on a partner that has skin in the game, for instance, and we provide advice, or there's something that we miss, we actually are the employer of record in that co-employment. Those things get filed against Insperity. So if there's something where there's a wrongful termination or some kind of EEOC complaint or something that goes on from a tax structure, and that comes back to Insperity. I can give you an example of, I was talking with a company that is located in the DMV. He hired one employee in the state of New York. And the state of New York has, I believe it was an add-on to his workers' comp policy that he had to have inside of this one county, and he had no idea about it. How he found out about it was he got letters that they had found out that through the local tax authority that they were paying taxes for this one employee for probably 3 to 4 months, and they missed this one workers' comp fee, and so they were getting fines against them. In our model, when you onboard that employee, it automatically triggers. It automatically triggers if they have a different benefit plan, a different workers' comp, different tax structure, and Insperity manages all that. So again, it allows you to be very, very focused on what you're doing in an organization to help you stand up the company, especially as you're growing and moving your company forward. And the other piece too, when you grow companies, if there's outside investors, a lot of times, you go out and get, VC companies and you get M&A investment. It allows your organization to then be even more credible, to say, look, we're going out and we're going to grow this company, and we have a partner that's going to manage our infrastructure, reduce our risk, manage that liability, and then provide you the ability to say, you know what, we're going to grow to this company. We have Fortune 100 benefits. We have the stability in place with a company like Insperity that you can go out and get at a return on the investment. So there's a lot of the investment community that when they get involved with companies, they'll partner with us and say, look, in order for me to invest into this, I want to make sure that this is shored up so that you can refocus on growing the company to meet your business needs and then return ours. And they'll really highly advise them to do business with a company like Insperity. Healthcare. Some of the things when I talked about from going to market. So when you look at this plan, 3.68%. Excuse me. Pretty interesting number. And what that means when we talk about cost containment, when you talk about managing your business and moving things going forward, these high spikes in doing business, that whether it's a lawsuit claim, more importantly, it's this benefit. Every one of you, if you have your employees and have been in business, understand this, especially during COVID. But when I talk about removing barriers, this is a big area that Insperity does. What we do, because of how we go to market, as I mentioned, we're able to contain costs better than the industry. So you can see there from our 10-year history. Again, we're publicly traded. You can go out and look at our 10K. It all backs this up. And in fact, last year during COVID, we had like a 3.12 or 3.14 because of how we do things. So yes, we look at the risk in every company and then manage it going forward. And this is how we're able to help organizations flatline some of these things that are becoming out of hand. And we don't do it by changing plan designs. That's typically what happens. You'll find organizations that if they do have low increases, we'll ask them, okay, have you maintained your current benefit plan? Well, no, we were on $1,000 deductible when we went to a 5,000. So what you're doing is interrupting not only your business flow, but your employees. And so what we're all about is to flatline this so that you're not interrupting your employees or creating issues around, constant benefit plan changes, constant spikes where you have to position it with your contribution to share it with them, share it with the company, which becomes the ability to reduce profits inside of it. So that's the methodology of our model is to reduce this so that you can focus, because we're managing the behind the scenes, this relationship. You just dictate what plans you want. And as long as we contain these costs, and again, putting the money where the mouth is, you can see aggregated 3.68% benefit increases across 10 years is pretty impactful to an organization. Infrastructure, just I've touched on this. I know this is a lot of overlap, but again, small business requirements. If you are into the government contracting, DCA audit control, we work with organizations from a financial piece, even like nonprofits. If you're grant funded, you have to be accountable back to where your grants go. Regulatory pieces around commercial businesses, making sure that any changes are going on, making sure that, if you are in a state that's ACA required for benefits, that we're helping you through that. So even from a government contracting piece around the FARs, the small business, the DCAA, to nonprofit organizations that are grant funded, to commercial businesses that are accountable, whether you have investors, you're accountable back to your employees. So we're helping you reduce these things and manage that risk to minimize the infrastructure or the potential loss of those. This you'll get from this. I know there's a lot that I went through. Jesse, as I mentioned, he's in our Indianapolis office. I'm located in Tyson's, but probably went through a lot of information. And I like to kind of pause and stop here and see if there's any questions, anything that you have, for me on that standpoint. But I appreciate, the time. Hopefully, I think you felt that this was a little bit beneficial from your standpoint of creating and helping a solution to start your business up faster moving forward.
Great. Thank you, Todd.
Mm-hmm.
I currently don't see any questions in the chat function. I know you went over quite a bit of material, and I know that it was pretty detailed. So I think, they might have, but I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you doing that, presenting on this. I think it's a much needed conversation that needs to happen. There's a lot of companies out there, especially during the pandemic, that have started their own businesses.
Yeah. And
I believe are needing some help in this aspect. So I appreciate you getting on here and providing this information for us. So
yeah.
Please, anyone reach out to Todd. Again, we will send the presentation, a copy of this presentation, as well as a copy of the recording to you, so you can continue to download that information and see if there's any further questions that you might have. Please get in contact with Todd. He'd be more than happy to help you in any way that he can. I'd like to thank CACI International again for being this month's webinar sponsor. So every month we like to have a webinar sponsor, and we promote their brand, their company, in hopes that connections can be made from their Purdue at Westgate, the Westgate Academy. You can go onto our website at westgate-academy.com. You'll see different events that we have on there that are within this facility and that are virtual. So there's a Purdue at Westgate webinar series, as well as there is a Defense in Indiana webinar series that we have started. So please go on there to find further information. And if you have any questions, please give me a call, email me, contact Todd. We'll provide all this information to you. But otherwise, we hope to maybe see some of you in person in the next couple of months, as we'll be starting to hold some more in-person events. So Todd, we appreciate it. Thank you. Jesse, I know you're a big part of this too. So thank you for continued participation in this, and we will speak to everyone soon.
Thanks, everyone.